So the next piece is just working with that ankle, that right ankle that tends to fold in. So in your squatting, I noticed that you had the tendency for this ankle to want to collapse in. And when your right ankle collapsed in, your knee and hip followed. So what we want to do is work that spiral to prevent that collapsing from coming in. When you and I were talking about the spiral, we were talking about pressing into the fourth metatarsal and keeping your heel in the first ray, the ball of your first ray, grounded into the floor. The spiral is not an exaggerated spiral like this. So you look like a cowboy riding on a horse. We don't want that. What we want is a very subtle movement. Instead of that ankle wanting to collapse in this way, we want to give it a subtle spiral this way. It'll feel like you're gently corkscrewing your foot into the floor, and the arch of your foot is going to lift a little bit. So when you're doing your squat, instead of this happening, you'll have that spiral set, and this will happen. You were referring to a yoga pose that I can't remember the name of it, but it involved having your feet close together, and you did something similar like this. And that would be also a nice way to tune this in before you do your exercise program that Peter gives you. So if you just set your feet there, set a gentle spiral on your legs, get a sense of a wrapping around of these thighs. You may feel some tension on the outside of your butt muscles, which you and I found would be a very valuable place for you to become more aware of in your body. And you also may feel some tension on the outside of your shins here. And you also may feel the tissue on the bottom of your foot, your plantar fascia, start to get a little tired when you do this stuff, because especially on that right foot, it's not as used to supporting that arch as when you're doing the spiral technique. So then when we bring that to the balance activities that you're doing, I would recommend being close to something that you can hold on to. And the idea is not just to see how long you can balance. The idea is to see, can you balance without collapsing in this way? So once again, we're setting that spiral, set the fourth metatarsal, the ball of the first ray and the heel firmly into the floor. And I guess I should be more specific that it's the head of the fourth metatarsal, meaning this pad of your foot there is also into the floor. So it's the head of the fourth metatarsal, the ball of the first ray, and the heel. Spiral that out, and remember how we talked about lifting high through your hip. You have the tendency to sit into the hip like so. So you want to think more like a ballet person, where they lift tall through the hip like that. And again, like we spoke of earlier with that inner core breathing exercise, when you're on your hands and knees, pull that belly button up. So you're nice and tall. Our goal is to get to the point where you can do this just like I'm doing it for 3 minutes with good awareness of when that foot falls in and being able to spiral out of that. Good awareness of your side butt muscle and good awareness of your belly button pulling up and in. Remember what we found in your balance. So when you were balancing on the left foot, you were able to get into that hip pretty well, and your pelvis would stay level. But when you balanced on the right foot, you had the tendency to do this. And I'm exaggerating it a little bit, but this was the movement pattern. So make sure when you're balancing on that right foot that you bring your left hip forward like so, which may help you get more into here. Also see, if I do that when I'm standing facing you, if this pelvis rolls out, that encourages that same collapsing pattern to happen that we noticed with you earlier when we were looking at your squat. So be sure to keep this hip forward, and that is also going to be important for you on your single leg exercises, because if you drop into a lunge and you let this hip rotate back, that's going to give you more of a propensity to collapse inward. But if you keep this hip forward as you lunge without letting it rotate back, it helps you keep your bones stacked on top of themselves. So you have the ankle, the knee, the hip, and the shoulder all in a straight line. So those are the exercises I would recommend that you do before you do Peter's program. Start with the inner core power breathing. Do about 10 to 20 of them. Make sure you're using the PC muscles when you do that and that your spine stays still. The second will be to lie down on your stomach and do the head and arm lifts, focusing on anchoring your feet, your pubic bone, and your lower sternum into the floor. So this part up is what extends when you're doing them, not the lower back. Do about 10 to 20 of those, maybe more, until you feel like that mid part of your spine, about mid-thoracic up, feels like it's getting some extension. You may not feel much at first, but as you keep practicing it, you'll get more. And then the third one is just to practice your spiral technique, so doing that yoga pose you were making reference to, and then bring that to the balance, keeping all the spiral technique happening, keeping that left hip forward when you're on your right leg. The goal is to be able to balance on one foot for 3 minutes. When you're able to balance on one foot for 3 minutes and be able to recover that spiral whenever you lose it, send me an email and I'll give you the next progression. After you do these exercises, then I'd recommend starting Peter's program and applying the awareness that you've gathered from these exercises into his movements. Feel free to give me a call if you have any questions or send me an email. Take care.